Thank you. Appreciate you, Giancarlo. I want to say a big thank you to Giancarlo and the Atlanta Watch Society. Thank you for joining us today. Can everybody hear me okay? We good? Awesome. So I want to first introduce some of the gentlemen here on the panel with us. I'd like to introduce Al from Official CP Time, Al and CQ. I give another big shout out to DJ Allen, the owner of Watch Your Wrist, who is sponsoring us this evening. Just to note, he does have watches for sale. Some of you guys have already checked them out, but the guys are over there representing, and they brought some heavy hitters. So if you saw them before, didn't get to see them yet, afterwards, you'll have another chance to check them out. Also want to introduce a dear friend of mine and amazing watch collector, Ronaldo Nehemiah, who is local to the Atlanta area. Thank you for joining us. I want to give another shout out to Encanto Suites for catering this evening. Thank you so much. And we'll get right into it. So, gentlemen, here we are. What's interesting is when you get the opportunity to participate in events like this. I was just talking to a gentleman about it who was saying, when I got into watches, I felt like I was the only one. I felt like, there wasn't a place for me to express my passion about timepieces with my friends because they weren't as passionate about my hobby as I was. And since, falling into the watch community and finding a group like Atlanta Watch Society or CP Time, he now feels like he has a home. One of the first questions I wanted to talk about and start with was the importance of collector communities. How do they make a difference exactly? What is their role? Al, you want to chime in?
So Al Coombs, thank you guys first of all and foremost for coming. This is our dream, and it means a lot that everybody's in this room. You could be doing a number of things on a Saturday, but the fact that you're spending time with us is dope. I think communities like this are important because as beautiful as these devices are, to have a topic that can connect you with really good people is important, especially in a climate like that we're in today. It is nice to sit there and be able to see somebody's particular taste in watches, to be able to just celebrate in their victories, to get to know why they collect what they collect. And I think spaces like these are important. It's also important to understand why people collect and how that changes the reasons why you collect. Some people like myself, I collect for legacy. My goal is to find forever pieces. Even pieces that I think they're forever and later they're not, but the goal is to constantly refine that collection. And a big part of that is connecting those pieces to memories. So that is, my value to it. But certain people have other values. I have friends who collect watches like artwork, right? They don't wear them a lot, but it's like having a Mona Lisa in your house and it gives them that level of peace. So there's no right or wrong reason to collect, but it is important to find a group of people that will celebrate the reason why you do this in a room where it can just be nothing but positivity.
I want to ask, you talked about sort of creating the culture that goes along with having that community. You and CQ launched CP Time together. What was it that you didn't see or that you thought there was an opportunity to not only capitalize on, but, that void to fill? What was it that you guys were intent on bringing to the watch community?
CQ, I'm going to let you answer.
That's a good question. Thank you again, everybody, for coming here. I think, for us, there was just no group that looked like us at the time. So, we started like an Instagram group. We just say, hey, do you think we should do this? Do you think there's something like this? We started this Instagram group and it just, ballooned into something amazing. So many people, we've done events all over. And it's all about, like Perry said in the beginning, kind of finding your home away from home when collecting watches. And, there's so many great experiences. And in the interview I said earlier, what I like about communities is about amplifying your experience of collecting, right? It's fun. It's amazing to collect watches on your own, but when you can share experiences with each other, learn from other people's mistakes, see other people's successes, give yourself other goals. I think it just changes the whole experience of collecting watches. And then forget the watches, just the people, the networking. I remember, our first few events, people kept coming to us and say, how do you screen? How do you pick who's in the group? And then I looked at the person and said, I've never even thought about this. It's just naturally the people who've come to these groups, for whatever reason, have just been all good people with good hearts, who just want to have a good time and talk watches.
Our first year I spoke, and I think we got to like 2,000 people on the page, unless it was a bot, and I spoke to plenty of bots, and I had to learn the hard way about bots. But I think I spoke to almost every single person who followed, just to ask them what their interests were. And it was a lot of positive feedback, even a lot of the initial negative feedback in terms of developing, which started out just kind of as a black watch collector club, which anybody can join, to something that's just been more of an inclusive club. Having to answer that question a lot, which is, well, I guess, through the lens of Black culture, we've experienced that we don't feel like we belong. Well, we wanted to create something where everybody belonged. And so it's the page itself has evolved into something that I couldn't have predicted at all. And we've met so many dope people from so many dope places. We had a meetup in Ghana. I mean, they were like, we want to host you. And I said, okay. And so we went and meeting people from around the world to do this. We're going to sit up here and hopefully not bore you talking up here, but then later we're all going to meet. There's going to be people that become friends as a result of things like this, that's the victory here. Somebody's godfather is in this room who you're just meeting tonight for the first time. And that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. And so that's a victory for us. And that's something long after we're gone, we hope that continues. So,
so one of the other questions I wanted to ask is, you guys have been doing this for a couple of years now, traveling to all these places. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to kind of lose your sense of mission when you're pursuing, anything like, of this magnitude. How are you guys, how are you measuring impact? Exactly. Like, how do you know you're making a difference? What are you looking for? Exactly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. I would say the friendships. How many people here hopped on a flight to get here?
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. So thank you.
Applause.
How many people here, this is their first event?
Nice.
Yeah. So these are things that aren't normal. So that there's something positive there. So we may not be able to measure it directly, but we know that every day, if we impact one person in a positive way and they affect somebody else in a positive way, that's great. Also, too, if we help somebody get an awesome watch, and as a result, they have a good experience, that's a win for the brand. That's a win for our club. That's a win for the person. I'm looking around at many people that we've helped get watches, and they wear them proudly on their wrist. They love to talk about it. They can't wait to show us. Some of them where they say, look, don't post it, but I just want to show you this new watch I got. Yeah. That's just as much of a win for us as anything. Yeah. So
you made a mention of, connecting people with brands. Question for DJ Allen. In terms of bridging the gap between collectors and brands, I'm sure that, from a collector community, we could talk about this too, but you as, sort of a independent retailer, dealer, why is connectivity so important between brands and collectors?
I think the first thing is that we were talking about how it can it can get hard and you feel like you're out of touch with the brands. And I think that starts with your local AD. I think that most of the collectors in general, they shuffle stuff around. You get into the brands and you get in and you buy a lot of stuff to start out. And then you start to see, okay, like I haven't worn this watch in a while. You start to figure out what you like, and then you narrow in, to your point, you narrow in very, very narrow on like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I enjoy. And I think the closer you can get and the more resources you can have, whether that be an authorized dealer or a gray market dealer, to where you can kind of meet the people, educate yourself, and learn, then I think that's when you'll start to have better relationships. You'll start to have more fun collecting, and you'll start to kind of I think everybody has a different path. You
Right.
know, I think, you know, you're not going to just get in and know exactly what you're going to do. So, you know, I think that the intent behind it is very important. From people like us, you know, I think gray market dealers in general sometimes get a bad rap because a lot of us, myself included, started out as like buying and selling watches, and they get labeled as a flipper or whatever the case may be. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're very passionate about collecting. We're very passionate about watches. We're very passionate about helping clients and educating clients, whether they shop with us or shop with somebody else. So I think to bridge that gap is find the people in your corner. If your local authorized dealer is that person, great. You know, if there's a gray market dealer in your city, or if we can be that person, great. Even if you don't shop with us, educate yourself so you can enter into watch collecting safely.
Yeah.
And not get burned or, you know, so.
Oh, good point. And CQ, you along Al, you guys often have held events in partnership and collaboration with brands. Why is that important?
Well, I think that's important because I think that's something brands themselves right now have been so disconnected from the end consumer, right? I think, you know, for a long time, brands used ADs, had ADs doing all the work of connecting with clients. A lot of brands went straight to boutiques, monobrand boutiques now. So a lot of them never really knew how to interact with certain people. Yes, you know how to take care of our very high level network people. But what about the entry level person who just wants to know about the first watch, the first starter experience? So I think, you know, what we've been able to do is just approach brands and say, hey, let's just have an event. And, you know, us, Atlanta Watch Society, have done a great job with this, and many other groups as well. And just saying, hey, we have a bunch of people who just want to learn. Can they come and learn? And brands have just been like, oh my God, yes, please, because they honestly just don't know how to do it anymore because it's been so long, just the business has changed. So a lot of these marketing people who are in these brands don't even know watches as much.
Yeah.
Many times I think all of us have met somebody who's in a very super high position, and you talk to them for 2 seconds. Oh, you're not a watch guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like damn. You know, like if I had a kid, he probably know by the time he's 2 more than you, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for groups like us to push these brands to have events to just educate the people and show them, hey, this is how you talk to consumers, right? We're not gonna, you know, that's why companies like yours do so well, because people just want to touch watches, talk to people, have a good time, right? And at the end of the day, the more we can show brands the power of that, I think we'll just see more and more great opportunities pop up.
I also think with brands, because of, and this is happening across the board with most high-end things, if you're getting high-end cars or high-end watches, because they're only releasing so little, essentially, if you have a watch on, you are like a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
And that's how they're thinking of all of their clients now. So whereas I would say the old school way, it was like, that's how it was. How much money do you have? What do you want? Let's get this watch. Where now they're really looking at, you know, the character of a person. There's I won't mention the name of the brand, but there was a watch brand where they had reached out to me. They wanted to know about me before even, you know, before even offering a watch. And it wasn't a prove to me that you want this watch. No, they were genuinely curious because they know only a select few people will wear this watch. And we want somebody who's going to represent this watch well. Now, some people may like that, some people not. And, you know, it's supply and demand. But I like it because it encourages people to be good people. You know, don't be a jerk when you walk into a place. And I think that's a good lesson for everybody. But it also, anything that causes you to reflect on what somebody thinks about you, whether good, bad, or ugly, I think is healthy, you know? So, you know, you have to think about it. If you're wearing a Rolex, if you're wearing an AP, especially if you're wearing like a Moser or Journe, something where they're having these small batches, the watchmaker, they may not know your name, but they could probably get in contact with you very quickly if they wanted to. So, you know, you walk around a bit different. Like I probably won't have 5 drinks in Atlanta wearing an FB Journe because if something bad happens, they'll be like the guy with the FB Journe. So, you know, I think that's, you know, anybody can benefit from that. So yeah, I do think they really are concerned about who is collecting these pieces, which I personally like.
You know, it's funny. I had a question that I was going to follow up with, but you guys actually answered it. And one of the things I was thinking about was, you know, especially coming from your perspective as a collective community, how do you ensure that the trade-off between brand and community members are balanced? But what I'm hearing from the two of you is, you know, what the brand gets is they get an ambassador. And what the community gets is an education. And I think that's so key. And I think that's really interesting because we have a friend of mine here who's on the panel with us this evening, Ronaldo Nehemiah. And when I think about what you gather from brands education, those moments when you get to bring everyone into the room, it's not just the education you're getting from the brand. You're getting the education from one another as well. This is a man, he's a stylist here in Atlanta for some of the most popular people you've heard of. In addition to that, he's the creative director for OTE, but he's also a watch collector with a pretty specific focus who's educated me a great deal. I want you to elaborate a little bit on what your focus is in terms of building your collection.
Yeah, so my focus is quartz watches. I fell in love with quartz watches because I think I'm around rappers and entertainers all the time, and everybody got the same watch. All of my friends now, they got all the same watch. They might be fake, they might be not. They don't even know. But and like Perry was saying, is I've always been the one that always naturally go left. And when I started getting into watches, I remember I sent the email to Mr. John Claude Beaver back in 06, 05. I think I still got the email that I said, I think that Hublot should get into partnering with rappers, and you should look at my brother Ludacris as being someone that you partner with. I remember this email and I still got it. The response was, Ludacris at the time was not our demographic that we were going to. And 4 or 5 years later, they did a brand ambassador deal with Ludacris here in Atlanta when they opened a Hublot store. And I look at it and I say, yo, that's kind of like a cool moment because he wasn't aware and it wasn't his fault. But then when the hip hop business started taking over, they started reaching back out to rappers. So then it leads into, all right, but now I'm into these watches now and I like these things, but then what is the cool thing?
Yeah.
I remember people say Rolex never had watches with batteries in them. And one day I came across an Oyster and they was like, yeah, this is a Rolex with a battery in it. I'm like, what? And so then I go down the rabbit hole. I'm an extremist. So when I get into something, I don't half step nothing. I go directly all the way all in. And I research every watch brand that made a quartz watch. When I started to look at it, Patek made it, AP made it, Rolex made it, IWC made it, everybody. So then what I went to go do, I said, well, listen, I'm about to go buy every quartz watch that ever was made by all of these folk. And randomly, when I found the oyster cord, I went and brought the rose gold oyster cord. I went and met the white gold oyster cord. My birth year, this presidential one. I went and brought the stainless one. I went and brought the two-tone one. Then I went to AP. I went and brought all of their quartz that they had. Then I went to Patek. I got an Aquanaut. I got a Lips. I got almost every one. Then I went to Piaget. I got the presidential date. Piaget. I went to all of them. So then when I got in the room with watch collectors that look at me like, he covered in tattoos, he don't know nothing. I just showed you the holy grail of all of these watches. Now I'm in a room with nobody that got the same thing. And the cool story was how I got close with John Mayer because he walked off stage one day and I had on this oyster cord. And he was like, yo, what you know about that? Me and him sat in the back of the Coca-Cola Roxy for 3 hours and talked about watches. And every time he comes to Atlanta, I go take him a new watch that I got. And it just, that mystique of, I know I'm sitting in the room and nobody has the same watch that I had on. And then the first time I met my brother and him over here was met by Perry. I wore my Hublot service watch. That's another one that nobody ain't got.
Not for sale.
Yeah, they're not for sale. Yeah. Yeah. I walked in. Yeah, I had I wear it every day, the not for sale watch that nobody had. And I always just like the rarest thing. So then the education of it is I say, yo, listen, this is the cool part. Yeah, the automatics. And then another thing, I'm a small guy. I only wear 36 millimeters. So I'm very into, you cannot sway me to buy anything outside of a quartz watch besides the Cartier crash watch. There's nothing. You can show me the holy grail of everything. I would not move off of it because everybody's going to have it. But nobody's going to have a quartz watch. Yeah. And they don't make them like
I think, the cool thing about that is it kind of furthers the point that you were taking in terms of the possibilities with education through engaging other watch collectors, because it's very easy to enter a space with a group of people who collect watches, or even yourself. Maybe you're at a specific part in your watch collecting journey and you feel like you know a lot. Maybe you feel like you know everything. And then all of a sudden someone comes along, you engage in a conversation with them and completely derails you. And you have to witness something that you never even considered. Like, how many people actually knew that Patek made quartz watches? That some of these brands, you think about the big three, right? The Holy Trinity, that they actually ventured off into producing quartz watches, with the exception to Blancpain, of course, because we know what Byron said, they'll never produce a quartz watch. So the possibilities are limitless. I think I'm also interested to hear your perspective, because you're also one of the watch collectors that I actually look up to. I think your collection is pretty amazing. I mean, if we look at that right there, right? What is, because you're also coming from Ronaldo has a very specific focus, and it seems like your focus is just a little more broad. You now own a quartz watch, but you have automatic watches, you have complications, etc. What is it? How would you describe your focus in collecting, your approach?
So I'm very hesitant to buy. I will sit on watches, and some know this about me, some don't, but I will sit on a watch for like 5 years and just really think about, I often say this, okay, you go to your watch box, you open it up. Why would you put this on? And if I don't have a reason for it, then I find a way to either consolidate that watch or gift that watch. And I find that I have a level of peace when I do that, because I don't want something to just sit and doesn't have a purpose. So there's a lot of pieces that I've gotten where I've really kind of pushed the limit of what fits my style. And sometimes I don't want to say disappointed, but sometimes I learn something new about myself. And then sometimes I fall in love with a piece that I never thought I'd fall in love with. Patek makes a watch, 5320. They have an olive dial. It's a perpetual calendar. It has like a slight sporty flair, but it's a formal watch. And I own no formal watches. And at the time, it was the most expensive watch that I ever looked at. I consulted with all my friends, everybody. I would listen to any idea about it. And after about maybe 8 months, I pulled the trigger on this watch. Funny thing about it is I bought it. I don't know if you remember Peter, but the guy discontinued 2 days later. And he's like, who told you? And I said, I don't know. And so the whole point is I went with my gut. And I love that watch. I mean, that is something where anytime I put it on, I've talked about this in one of the articles, I kind of sit up a little bit straighter. Like I feel a bit more like an adult because it's my only formal watch. There are other pieces that I've gotten into. I bought a titanium Royal Oak offshore. And I said I wanted something different. I wanted something a light material. We talked about it on the podcast. And I buy this watch. I put it on my wrist. It's really comfortable. I keep staring at it because the size bothers me, right? And so after about a week, my wife says, if you ask me if that watch is too big one more time, like I'm going to scream. And what I learned is that it wasn't for me. And so maybe 6 months prior to that, I was determined that this was a new direction I was going to go in, just a big ultra sport. Like I can, run around. There's a funny video of me playing soccer in this watch. Thank you, by the way, for taking it back after I was playing soccer with my son with it. But I learned that it wasn't for me. So I said, okay, I love the material. I love the feeling of it. I didn't like the size. So where did that land me a couple of years later? Elegante. I mean, it's like a slim, thin quartz, offshore. And that's, it fits me perfectly. So if I didn't experience that AP offshore, I wouldn't have known that I would have fell in love with the Elegante. So, and those are just, as I'm talking, you might be thinking of examples in your life, but like I said, before even buying a watch, except for tonight buy everything. But before buying a watch, whatever you have, your watch box, your safe, your roll, open it up, say, okay, I have a date with my wife or a date with my husband, or I have a work, or I have an interview. I open my roll. Why do I go to this watch? And if you don't have a scenario for that watch, bless someone else with it, whether it's selling it, consolidating it, or giving it away. I give away a lot of pieces, and I do it. I get the most joy out of that. I'm at a point now where I can give away a piece and it's not dire straits. I gave Alex a watch at what? He was 19 years old. I don't know where that watch is. It was a U-bid watch. It's like $98. But at the time, that was a big deal. But I really, that's my brother. I played ball with him. I wanted to give him something because I knew we also loved watches. And all these years later, that forges a tight friendship. So I like to give away, but find a reason for a watch. If you don't have a reason for it, I suggest move on for it. If it gives you peace just looking at it in the case, then keep it. But the moment it serves no purpose, like your daily beater, your watch that you're ready to get rid of is somebody else's Grail. That 5320 I bought used, that person didn't want it. That is like one of my Grail watches right now. So, long story, long answer, long.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I just want to say, if you ever want to consider giving away your 5712, I can assure if you pass it here, you'll be very happy. But you brought up an interesting scenario, right? Talking about sort of reshaping your collection and how your collection changes as you move forward as a collector. And it brings up a question to mind that I actually wanted to touch on with DJ Allen. Because I think as you go along this journey of watch collecting, you're going to move in and out of certain pieces, right? And then that brings up the whole conversation of flipping. How do you view flipping versus trading up, as we say?
I mean, I think it goes back to an intention thing. Some people, especially the past couple of years, have gotten into watch collecting just because it's something to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
A lot of younger people, especially, and that's starting to go away again and get back to a normal. So, I mean, I think the difference between flipping and trading up is just goes back to intention, and there's stuff that people realize that they like that might be discontinued too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they have something and it's, and they just get a titanium offshore and they pay retail and maybe the market's over a little bit, is it a bad thing that they traded it in for, let's say, a 39 millimeter that they don't make anymore, a stainless steel watch? It is a bad thing if they made a little bit of money on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see that to be the case. And I think that goes back to, the people that are around you. I mean, there's tons of really cool, modern, new releases out there, but then there's also stuff that, you might get a new release and you think you love it. And then if you don't, there may be money to be made on it. Great. You might lose your butt on it to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like that's the flip side
reality
to it.
too.
So like, at the end of the day, I think it comes back to an intention and enjoying and figuring out what you like and sticking to that and don't vary. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I've declined a lot of watches from the AD recently that I could have easily sold in 24 hours through my business because I know I'm going to get it and immediately sell it. So like, it's not all about that. And I like to try and keep my authorized dealer relationships, pure also. Until they find out I do this. I don't know when that'll happen, but
maybe after this airs.
I was saying
this will probably be the weekend. But I mean, to those people out there, I've declined a lot of watches. So, but I think it just comes back to the intention and buying what you like, and if you don't like it, trade it.
Yeah.
As a general rule, too, make sure you have an open conversation. So if you buy a piece that you are unhappy with, I point to CQ, but there have been times where I bought watches from Watchbox, times I bought watches from authorized dealers, and I've had the conversation like, hey, I don't love it. I'm sorry. And if you have that conversation, I don't know a single authorized dealer that would say, no, you have to keep that watch for X amount of time. So just make sure you have transparency. Remember, they're people too. Like their job, they also want to make you happy.
I'll cut in. Sorry to cut you off, but also when that happens, I think that you do have an obligation. Sometimes most authorized dealers don't have the ability to trade back in a watch, so you do have an obligation to protect them. There's a lot of red tape in authorized dealers, and a lot of people don't know the way to sell a watch safely without making it seem like you had bad intentions.
Mm-hmm.
You get a Daytona at retail that you're going to make double money on it, and you're just like, it's just too small for me. This doesn't work for me. Be careful the way that you move that watch. Be respectful to your authorized dealer. That's something we try and be very cautious about on where did the watch come from, how long have you had it, and just keep that in mind.
Yeah. No, fair point. And you know, continuing on to talk about watch collecting and enhancing your collection, if you will, moving through pieces. I want to get an answer from each one of you on this. What are some of is there a right and wrong way to collect? And what are some of the mistakes you might have made early on as a collector? Whichever one of you want to take that first. You okay?
Yeah. It still haunts me to this day.
Okay.
It was this Everose Yachtmaster
Oh.
that I always wanted, man. And I remember I hit Perry about it, and I was like, "Yo, bro, I finally gonna get this watch." And it was beautiful in the window and all of that stuff. And somebody came across and said, "Yo, I can sell you this watch for $30,000." I brought the watch for $30,000. I wore it maybe like 3 or 4 times, and that it happened. I started looking back at my wrist. This ain't it. It's like an automatic. I'm like, and I took a $10,000 L on that watch.
Yeah.
I took a $10,000 L, and I mean, I just gave it back. I didn't even feel it didn't even bother me that I took a $10,000 L. I was just happy that I just got the watch out of my collection.
Just wasn't for you.
It just wasn't for me, but I always thought looking at this watch and this glass, and when it was behind the glass and I couldn't grab it and put it on my wrist and walk out the store, drive around in my cars and stuff, I realized it wasn't me.
Mm.
And I realized that moment, I could never go back to an automatic or manual again. Because I'm a quartz guy.
That's just who you are.
Yeah. So that's my story about it.
What about you guys?
I would say maybe not, or I'd say the mistake on my end is selling some of my first pieces.
Okay.
You know, like I think I got into it maybe just to get into it. And then I feel like later on, you really start to care a little bit more than right off the bat. You're just maybe doing it because somebody else has a watch or whatever. So I'd say slowing down, and then I'd also say just buying a little bit of everything. Like just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. You know, yeah, that's cool. And then you look up and you have half the collection that you don't really care about. And then, so I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think that a lot of people go through that, and they all have their own path that they get into. Some people are super slow and they never pull the trigger on anything, and they don't get a chance to enjoy a lot of stuff. And then, like myself, I'm very spontaneous, so I just like, yeah, that's cool. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't really care about half of these, but it'd be a mistake for me.
CQ, I'm curious about you. Because you see a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I see a lot. So for me, there's no right or wrong way as long as you're collecting your way, right?
Okay.
You're pulling the trigger, it should be your decision. I think we have 2 great examples of 2 different watch collecting strategies. And I love yours so much because you fell into quartz, right?
Yeah.
But then you fell into this amazing ocean. There's so many amazing quartz watches that people will just never look at because they're like, oh, it's quartz. I don't want quartz. But you got Patek Beta 21 or so much. You could list an encyclopedia of amazing quartz watches. And one day you just said, why not? I just want to go against the grain. We have another good collector who's only collecting vintage ladies Cartier. And when he first told me that, I was like, that's kind of, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, my
But
friend. My best friend.
So but when you see the collection he's put together in, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months, it's like, these are all amazing watches. And maybe I'm a big guy, can't wear everything, but it's made me look at vintage watches. Maybe I want to take a try, right? And I'll just put my bad experience with taking somebody's advice. Had an opportunity to get a 45th anniversary Snoopy at dealer cost. And somebody just said, hey, it might be too small for you. And I hesitated. And by the time it finally came in and I saw it, they were all sold out. And I could have probably got it for, I don't know, $6,000. I peaked at like a $50,000 watch. And I remember just watching that watch go from like a $10,000 watch to a $15,000 to 16 to like 30, 40. And I'm just like,
yeah, that hurts.
I probably wouldn't have sold it. Maybe I would because money is money. But like, man, I would have just loved to own that watch and I couldn't get it. But I let somebody get in my head and just kind of disrupt my whole thought process. And that's my thing is like, you know, I give a lot of advice. Don't listen to me. At the end of the day, you work hard for your money. You're the one who should pull the trigger. So that's the only wrong way. If you're letting somebody else pull the trigger for you, you're collecting wrong. But if you're doing it yourself, you're finding your watch. Every watch you buy is not going to be a watch you love. You're going to move on from it. But as long as you can say, like with your experience, you took a $10,000 loss but you know why you didn't feel bad? Because you wanted that watch.
Yeah.
Nobody told you to buy that watch. So if you took a big loss and hey, it hurts financially, like you can kind of move on from that. Sometimes you buy a watch that somebody else kind of force you into. Then when you take that big loss, you feel like the world is coming down because you never even wanted the watch in the first place. So you're taking an emotional loss and a financial loss. So it's like it's all bad. So my thing is like you're the one who worked for the money, you pull the trigger. So that's my spiel.
I mean, it's following most of the same sentiments. I think there's no wrong way to do it. I think anything that brings you joy and doesn't harm anyone is great. In terms of the mistakes, I would like to call them learning lessons versus mistakes because I believe if you are at a point in whatever it is, whether it's watches or any place in life, if you're at the point where you want to be, then those decisions that you made in the past brought you to that point. And there's a lot of those missteps, like one step back, which takes you 100 steps forward. So it would be hard to classify them as mistakes. There's things that were silly. So the first watch I bought was a Tag Heuer Carrera. I split it up among 3 credit cards in St. Lucia after buying a $500 watch, flying down and promising my now wife, then girlfriend, that I wasn't going to buy a watch on the way back.
It happened.
That was like, that's a silly thing to do. I remember a good friend of mine where I actually bought my first Rolex, which is a Rolex Milgas. I bought it used. I remember buying that watch and like him having to like call the credit card company because I wasn't supposed to be in there because it was over the phone. And it was just I was like, man, this is a really silly thing to do. If I have to do all this, maybe I shouldn't get it. But fast forward, I remember buying a 5960, which is the stainless steel Patek flyback chronograph. And I remember making the call and they're like, Tony, let's do it. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. He's like, you've had so many credit card problems since I've known you. I'm so happy now that we can just buy things and we don't have to call. And I was, I had to laugh just because it's like you see the evolution of where you are. I don't know anybody here who's ever played Grand Theft Auto, but like Grand Theft Auto, you start with a tank top and a bike, right? And by the end, you're like crashing Ferraris, getting new Ferraris. So I kind of think of like the watch journey as almost like a Grand Theft Auto or like a Scarface movie. And so like you're just going to build and build and build. But unlike those, you want to make sure that you find a place where you're at peace.
Right.
And that peace doesn't mean you don't buy any more watches, but you kind of understand why you're doing what you're doing. And so that you're not just doing things aimlessly.
Understanding why you're doing what you're doing, I think is a great segue to my next question, which is, once you start down this hobby, we always kind of refer to it as a rabbit hole, right? Because you just keep falling. What is it that, you guys are trying to achieve with your watch collection? You look like you got something to say.
Yeah, I could be very vulnerable with everybody. I fall down rabbit holes all the time. It goes from art to cars to watches. Those are my 3 rabbit holes that I go all the way down with. I think mine just have a badass quartz collection.
Okay.
Then I could go to the holy grail of like, I guess, watch collectors. And just kick everybody's ass and be like, I know you're gonna get this shit here. And it's like being a Tom Brady or like quartz watches, man, or like the Michael Jordan, or Bill Russell of like sports. It's like I want to like when you think about quartz watches,
you want to be thought about.
I'm the holy grail of the guy that got all the quartz watches. So, but I think honestly, with that is also to educate men and women that the cool factor of creating, collecting the unexpected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like my different personalities from my cars. I drove my 88 Fox body today.
Yeah.
That, you know what I'm saying? And then some days when I want to drive my C10, it's like, it's just the different cool factors too. But then I could educate you on it. Like, why this young man from Miami, Florida decided to collect this random shit.
Yeah.
and be cool about it. And that's all it is, actually. Just to educate people at their own time.
Yeah.
That's just really what it is.
What about yourself?
And CQ knows this because he hears this. I have a very stressful day job, and it is and all my passion and everything goes into it. And most of you know me, know that as soon as my job is done, I'm with my kids and I throw everything into my kids. Watches are the only thing in life that is 100% for me. Now, there's a lot of things that I try to, and even with that, I try to like spread and give, like this is, we're honored to have people come in, but this is a lot of work for us to do. So whenever I think about my collection, it's like when I open that box, there's peace, right? And, or even when like I see my dad wear one of my watches, there's peace. And so that's kind of my goal, is that where I have a calm, whereas everything isn't just go, go, go. And so that's, I don't know if that's necessarily ever going to like stop. I don't see myself retiring in any of these things, whether it's watches, dentistry, or any of the other stuff, other than sports. That's the only thing I can't go back to doing. I really put my all in everything. So having that peace I just know that's when I, enjoy the most. And I'm hoping that when it's all said and done and, it's whatever last days, I can say, okay, I did everything I wanted in this. And I'm happy with what I did. Yeah. So very similar to like sports. Like when I did play sports in college, I felt that when I took off my helmet for the last time, I did everything I could possibly do. There was nothing more that I could do, and I hung it up, which is why like most people didn't even know I played college football until like a week ago. So
All of Fame. Right?
so, because I felt that peace. I was like, I did it. That's it. And I hope everybody does find that peace. The antsiness is fun, right? That anxiousness is fun. And you want to enjoy that. It's the race. But at some point the race has to stop, or you have to be happy with wherever the race is. And that's, I guess that's my perspective.
I like what you said about being happy where the race ends. We got into a conversation the other day. You visited your school recently with your dad, and got to sort of reminisce on your time playing football. And we got into a conversation talking about this idea that you came up called your forever watch. I want to ask all of you, what does that mean to you? And if a forever watch is sort of like, I guess, your grail, right? Like the grailiest of your grails, the watch you'll have forever. Is there such a thing? Is there a watch that can make it all? And it's like, this is the one. This is my forever watch.
Yeah.
CQ, what about you?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So for me, my forever watch and my ultimate grail, if I only had to have one watch, would probably be a Patek Philippe 5960R black dial. So annual calendar, rose gold, chronograph, black dial. And I just remember, I'm a bigger guy, right? I was bigger before. And that was just the first Patek I put on. It just felt right. You know what I mean? Like everything about it. I love complications. It has a chronograph. And it just looked and felt like this is a watch, that when I'm ready to pull that trigger, I could have that one watch. I probably won't because, like everybody else said, I want to have a bunch. But if somebody said, hey, you can only have one. If the wife said, hey, one, that would be the one. I think it could do good in any situation. I think there's great heritage there. I think you have a lot of fun with straps. And every time somebody asks you, like, what's your Grail watch? To this day, from the day I first held that watch, it pops in first. So, there's no reason for me to change it.
Alan, what about you?
I would say my Grail watch. I really have two. The one I can't afford, I have over there. It's a black ceramic perpetual skeleton.
Yeah, that's serious.
If you haven't seen it, you may never see that again in your life.
I really we weren't gonna bring it. It sold right before late yesterday, and I was planning on bringing it. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna bring it. We're just gonna be very careful with it. But that's the ultimate Grail for me. But I have an Artisan's piece unique being made right now.
Nice.
Daytona. So that's like my one.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, can you explain what Artisan? Does everybody know what an Artisan is? Yeah. Raise your hand if you don't. Okay. All right.
So it's basically you take a Rolex and you have the ability to. I don't know how easy or not it is, but they had to do like interview. I had to write a bio myself and all kinds of stuff. But they customize it. You can do whatever you want. They have challenges, I believe it's called. So they partner with different people. They just did a partnership with John Mayer, which basically they did a modern day skeleton Paul Newman dial where the whole white dial is
the loom.
the loom.
Yeah.
So like you can get as crazy as you want, and I've bought and sold quite a few of the artisans, and that's how I kind of started to love them and started to research them. I've only seen and bought and sold one piece unique, and then the rest have been challenges with these famous people. But yeah, I'm excited about. I've been working on it for a little over a year, and it'll have WYW on the back of it, my initials, and one. That I'm very excited for that. So that kind of re-sparked it for me. I had a pretty large collection, and like you were saying, just kind of got to a point where I'm like, I need to consolidate a little bit. Kept the sentimental pieces, and then that's going to be the Grail for me for quite a while.
It's a good forever watch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ronaldo, I think I know yours, but I'll let you share.
I'm going to find it for you, actually.
Yeah. You'll find it for me, DJ.
I'll have it Tuesday.
Okay.
And it's an automatic.
Yes.
No.
It's automatic. I'm sorry. But it's
The plot twist.
yeah. It's the Cartier Crash watch. I have extended all of my favors through Cartier, myself, through all my famous friends, through everybody. It's like, I have to have this watch. And it came across through a random text message. But the price was so astronomical that I was like, nah. But yeah, it's the Cartier Crash watch.
Which
That's
rendition?
the London one. Yeah, it was.
Those who may not know, you have to just explain what the
so
London.
this watch, you can only get it from the Bond London store.
Yep.
It's only retail at 50,000, but it is once it gets to us, it's your house.
Yeah.
And one guy sent it to me, texted to me on my phone. He was like, "Yo, we've been talking." He said, "I talked to you 3 years ago. It came across." He texted me the picture of it without the strap on it. He's like, "It's here without the strap is coming." And I was like, "I can't do that." I just showed DJ, and I was like, "Yo, man." But the Cartier Crash watch is my holy grail of ball watch. I've seen it one time in person.
Really
And it was on a famous friend of mine, and he probably don't know where the hell is at now, but that's it.
Al, how about yourself?
So I think Grail watch and Forever watch are two different questions.
Okay.
Because I think the Grail watch is going to constantly change, just because you're going to get a new Grail. I've bought my Grail so many times that I don't know what my next Grail is going to be. So, but in terms of Forever watch, that's a much simpler question. And I already have it. It's my Meteorite Daytona. Daytona was the first Rolex I ever put on my wrist. It was one of my best friend's dad's watches, and he used to collect these things like it was nothing. And I used to love going to his house to be able to put on this watch and go out to, what was that club we went to? The Fifth in Miami. I don't know if you guys are from Miami, but this club called the Fifth in Miami, and I just felt like a king, you know? It was like, I literally felt like the man with it on, you know, you just kind of walk different and you point different. And I'll never forget that feeling. I remember I had, it was like the old flip phones that had the camera, but I took a photo of it, and it was the Meteorite Daytona, and it had red subdials, or the red hands on the subdials. And so, you know, fast forward, I just said, I don't know how I'm going to, and I say this for every watch. I say, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this watch. And so, you know, fast forward years later, it's discontinued. And then Rolex came out with the Panda Daytona. And so the Panda Daytona is, out of those two were the same. I love the Panda Daytona. It was perfect for me. And fortunately, through one of my best friends, I was able to get it. Which is very sentimental because it was his first steel Daytona that he sold, and I gave that watch to my father. So in 2021, Rolex essentially combined my two favorite Daytonas. They came out with the Meteorite Daytona with the ceramic bezel. And as soon as I saw it, my AD, who knew the story, knew everything about it, called me at like 4 a.m. I'm up at 4 a.m., so that's not that absurd, but like he says, "Don't call me. I already know. I saw it. I'm working on it." And I didn't bring it up to him again. You know, by the way, if you guys have relationships, don't call ADs and that. They know you want the watch. Like, you don't have to bring it up. They're working on it. And but I literally waited, and it came in. He called me. I waited exactly 13 months for this piece. I took a day off from work, which those who know me, I never take off a day from work. I dropped my son off at school. I flew out, picked it up, drove back to pick my son up at school. And my favorite moments, a lot of people have seen the picture, is my son wearing it. He's like, "Did we get it?" I was like, "We got it."
We got it.
He's
I
just
love
like
that.
screaming about it. He's like, "This one's mine. Samita can't have it. This one's mine." And so that is my son's Meteorite Daytona, which that's his, and I will wear that watch until it goes to him. And yeah, so that is my forever watch.
That's incredible. This concludes our panel discussion this evening. I want to thank you four gentlemen for joining us up here.
Yeah.
We're going to do a little. Oh, yeah. So
okay.
Facts. We have to have our honorary wrist check. I almost forgot.
Oh.
Ronaldo, you want to kick it off? What are you wearing?
Yeah, I'm wearing my birth year, 1983, Rolex Oyster Presidential. They date. Yeah, this is actually my birth year, which is my oldest daughter. That's the trick part. I have 3 daughters, so I gotta go and find 2 more.
Man, God bless you, bro. God bless you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
man.
but my oldest daughter, she gets this one. So yeah.
That's dope.
Got a 5712R. Yeah.
Nice.
Tissot PRX is my birthday watch that I got a couple years ago. So been rocking with it ever since.
Epijourn Titalite Elegante. This is my nickname, the 80s nickname for my wife and daughter is Elegante and Little Elegante. So he says I have 3 Elegantes. But yeah.
I'm wearing this evening a vintage Nautilus. This is my favorite reference in Nautilus, 3800. Two-tone from the 90s, which was my era. The era I came up in, golden era of hip-hop. And I acquired this watch this year with the help of a friend, vintage dealer, and just a really good guy. We actually had him on our show, Wrist Check Podcast. Mr. Eric Wind helped me acquire this, and I very rarely take it off now these days. I think this is my forever watch. I'm pretty sure.
I know we talked a lot. Did anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah.
I know
We got a little time for a Q&A.
Yeah. And then afterwards, make sure we mingle at the get the empanadas. And... Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. And then before, Perry has brought down some really dope watch cases. We don't have a lot, but they are available for sale. So, definitely check them out. Dope product. So, and also too, we have, again, Encanto Suites, and then we have One Kin who came and supported. So thank you for everybody who came out.
I wanted to touch real quick. You had a question? Yeah. Good question. I think you shared that already, right? The
Yeah,
Snoopy.
my Snoopy. Yeah.
Either one of you guys want to take that one?
The 45th anniversary.
The one that got away.
I got it.
Okay.
I had a Zenith, all gold Zenith Daytona, and it was the inverted 6 with the upside down 30,
Oh,
black
wow.
dial,
Yeah.
box papers, tissue papers, receipts, everything. The bag it came in from the original owner, it was starting to oxidize. And that was early on when I started buying and selling watches, made a quick profit. I sold it to someone that I knew I could at least know where it was at. He was going to keep it. I've offered him 2.5 times what I sold it to him for already, many times, and he just smiles at me. He's doing pretty good on that.
Okay. I have one. So I don't have a one that got away in the sense of I didn't purchase. I have a watch that I actually purchased that I let go of that I regret. I had a 18239 white gold date with original papers from Japan, unpolished. I came across it through a friend, and very, very lucky. I got it for pennies of what it should have cost. And I used it to help me get my forever watch, but I still miss it. It was a good piece. I wish I could have figured something else out, but it helped me get where I am now. So I want to say thank you again. Where can the people get in touch with CP Time?
Official CP Time on Instagram. We also have our website, which launched a few weeks ago. All our meetups, so these events are going to be run through that website. So if this is something you enjoy, we switch up the formats every one. So this was panel format. We usually try to have some bit of education. Obviously, a lot of chopping it up and hanging out. But the website, officialcptime.com. Instagram is @officialcptime.
And watch your wrist. Where can people get in contact with you?
So we have some cards over there. There's QR code. If you scan that, it'll take you to everything.
Amazing.
Our Instagram is Watch Your Wrist LLC. Website WYWATL. And I will mention too, we have a retail location coming early next year. Right now, we're just working out a private office in Alpharetta. So
Awesome.
looking forward
Congrats
to
on
that.
that, man.
And our friends at Encanto Suites, if you haven't checked it out, they do have a QR code there on the table where you can leave a tip and also get their information. My name is Perry from the Risk Check Podcast. Me and my team came down here from New York City. You can find us just by going to riskcheckpodcast.com. We are 66 episodes in right now. We interview watch insiders, collectors. We do watch-related reviews. And Al just mentioned we do have some watch cases we brought down. We did a collaboration with Wolf that was designed by my co-host there, Ben, who just came in. So they are here for sale. You can buy some of the ones we have here. You can also place an order with us and we'll ship it to you. I want to thank you all again. And big shout out to Atlanta Watch Society for helping us set this
Yes,
up.
thank you so much.